Hi, welcome to the Inner Labyrinth. I'm your host, Debbie, and today we're going to be talking about showing up for yourself, even when you don't want to, even when you don't feel like it, even when you kind of wonder what's the point, right? I feel like showing up for yourself can be a way to show yourself self respect, commitment to yourself, to your vision, to what's best for you. And how you envision yourself living your ideal life in the future, right? I feel like these are all goals that we set for ourselves. And I feel like they're not going to get done unless you actually show up for yourself, even when you don't want to, right? And it's not in this mentality of hustle culture, of showing up, doing the most, doing the best, doing all of it all the time. No, it's just about grounding down into your vision, being honest about who you are, where you want to go, where you've been, what you've learned, sitting down with yourself and writing down exactly what you want from your life. What does your ideal day look like? What would that require of you? At what time does your ideal self get up at? What do they do when they get up? So I feel like once you get really clear on yourself, just actually taking some time to jot these things down, you can get really honest with, okay, what I need to do. Make everything bite sized, right? Don't bite off like a whole big thing. I've got to eat the whole cake right now. No, just eat a slice, eat a little bit. And I feel like that will actually get you to where you want to go. You just got to chip away at your goal, at your vision every single day by showing up. Even if it seems like you're not doing anything or it's not going anywhere or you're not getting to where you want to be or you're not reaching the people you want to reach, any kind of self doubt that's going to come up is just part of the journey. And I feel like you have to show up for yourself despite that, because that's also where the growth is. And you're not going to get to that life that you want, to that version of yourself, by not showing up for yourself, right? I feel like when you show up for yourself, you start to develop self discipline, committing to yourself, believing in yourself. I feel like you're voting for yourself, right? You're voting for yourself by showing up. You're telling yourself, like, hey, I'm worthy of this vision. I'm worthy of these goals. Like, I can do this. And that's the thing, too. I want you to be really honest about your goals, right? What can you do in a day? What can you do in a week? Break things down in a way that makes sense for you, and don't compare yourself to anybody else. I feel like really just be honest with yourself about what you can do, what you want to do, what feels right for you. And so whenever the time comes that you need to show up for yourself, you actually do it, and you don't feel like someone else is making you do this. You feel like it's you showing up for yourself and you honoring yourself by actually showing up and doing the things on that list. So for me, right, for example, this episode, I did not feel like showing up today, which is why I made an episode about it. Even though weeks ago, past Debbie, was so excited about having this podcast. And I had this vision. I was like, I'm going to reach my people. I'm going to talk about what feels good for me. I'm going to process and think about what I want, and it'll be great for myself and others. I just have to show up. I just have to actually do it. Right. And then today I didn't want to. And I felt that resistance. And I thought, oh, what am I even going to talk about? Right. What do I even have to say? Why even bother? It's not even going to, it feels like you're climbing a mountain. Right. And all you're doing is taking the next few steps. But that's the thing about climbing a mountain. You have to keep climbing. You have to keep going, even though no one's telling you, like, hey, great job. You did awesome. That was great. No, you yourself start to receive this internal validation from within yourself, because you're showing up for yourself and you're telling yourself, hey, you're worth it. You're worth it. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm showing up and doing this episode today. And I wasn't even sure what the episode was going to be about. And so I got pretty meta about it. And I was like, oh, let's talk about showing up for ourselves, even when we don't want to, even when we don't feel like it, even when we don't see the point, and really try to make this into a ritual for yourself of honoring yourself. Make it sacred, right? I think that's what makes it really special, is that no one's going to force you to do this. I didn't have to make this podcast. I didn't have to make this episode, but I did it because it's who I said I was going to be. I'm going to be a podcaster, right? What do podcasters do? They have a podcast. They show up. I told myself every single week. So let's do that every single week. Click record, even if I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I just need to commit to myself, and then also give myself grace in knowing that really showing up is 90% of it. Honestly, it's 90% of it. The 10%, that's great. I mean, you're doing something, working towards a vision. But the 90%, I really do feel like is the biggest part. It's the hardest part sometimes. And I do feel like your showing up is going to look different every single day. And I feel like it's important to just Like I said, be clear about yourself. What's really important to you? Write it down as a system of values, right? What's really important to you? What's a non negotiable in your days? For myself, it's been this podcast. It's going to be a weekly thing. It's going to be a weekly thing. As well as recently, I have been getting up earlier and earlier every single day and meditating and working out. And that's pretty new for me, right? I used to be what I would say a night owl. I didn't really have a schedule. I just was very much in the flow, going to sleep at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 7 a.m., 9, I did not have structure. I was very much into the flow. And I received a lot of, I don't know, enjoyment from that until I didn't. And I realized, oh, I'm not doing any of the cool things that I want to do. And for that, I need structure. If I want to make a podcast, if I want to work out every day, if I want to be mentally healthy, if I want to be my best version of myself for other people and myself, then I need to do certain things every single day. So I got really clear with myself and I set up a schedule for myself, right? So I know exactly what I'm doing every single morning. And that becomes, in and of itself, a ritual. It doesn't become a routine. It becomes a way for me to show up for myself. And yes, maybe some days I'm more sleepy than other days, but then you just keep showing up and it gets easier. Your body just gets used to it. You get used to it. And then it goes a step further than that. And you actually start to look forward to it. Like I look forward to having an early bedtime now. That was not Debbie a month ago. That was not Debbie for a very long time. I don't remember the last time that I had a bedtime. And it's, for me, this is what I need right now. I need this kind of structure and I need to show up for myself. I could easily say, let's keep going back to sleep whenever we want to. Let's have no structure. But then I wouldn't be honoring myself. I wouldn't be showing up for myself. I wouldn't be committing to myself, right? I wouldn't be seeing the results that I want towards my ideal life, right? My ideal life, Debbie, is what I want to be living as right now as much as I can, right? I feel like sometimes there's this illusion of, oh, in the future, I'm going to do that. Oh, future me's going to take care of that. Oh, it'll all get done somehow. But no, it starts right now, building it brick by brick, setting up the foundation so that you become your best self. And I feel like you need to know yourself and really get honest about where you want to go in order for you to even be able to show up for yourself. Because if you don't have a strong why, if you don't have a strong, why am I doing this? You're going to set up something in your routine / ritual that you're not going to like. And then it's going to become even harder for you to show up for yourself, right? If you're forcing yourself to do something that doesn't align with your vision, that doesn't align with the way you want to do that vision, you're not going to keep walking that path. You get to design to the best of your ability the path and the destination. And then once you do that, you need to show up even on the days that you don't want to, because those days are going to happen. They're going to happen way more than you think. And it becomes way more than, oh, I don't feel like it. No, it's not about that anymore. It's not about feelings anymore. It becomes about committing to yourself and showing up anyway. And that way you build a stronger relationship with yourself where you realize, like, oh, I can trust myself. I'm going to show up and I'm going to be that type of person who can depend on myself. And I feel like that's how you really start to build your dreams, right? Because you start to become consistent in yourself. Your life becomes a non negotiable. Your routines, your rituals, your structures become a non negotiable. Whatever you need to be the one to give it to yourself because nobody knows your dreams like you do. Nobody knows the way you work, the way that you tick, the way that you operate, the way that you observe, the way that you rest, the way that you play, what you need. Nobody knows you better than you know yourself. And so you need to really get down to the nitty gritty about what works for you. And then once you actually handle that, commit to it. That's it. You've got to just commit to it. I feel like it's really easy to feel, like I said in my last episode, a lot of resistance over your goals, right? You kind of start to feel maybe self-doubt or kind of wondering like, well, what's the point? Or it's going to take so long for me to get to that thing, or like, I'm not there yet. But no, like this is part of that, right? You being able to conquer yourself, you being able to overcome these negative voices and forces, right? When you show up for yourself, you say, hey, I matter. I matter. My dreams matter. I am going to be doing this for myself every single day. And then as you show up, things become easier. And you just show up even when you don't want to. Like today, I didn't really want to. In the morning, I was like, what am I even going to talk about? I mean, I have different topics, but I didn't click with any of them. And I was like, no, whatever I talk about, I feel like has to be alive for me in that moment for me to even be able to talk about it, right? Personally. And so then I thought, oh, I don't want to show up. So because I'm going to show up, it's a non-negotiable for me. I'm going to show up and I'm going to record an episode. Even if it's just me talking about my day, I'm going to show up, record something. And I feel like that's when the answer came to me, right? That's when I realized, like, oh, this is what the episode is about. And this is something that I need to hear. And maybe others do too, right? The power of showing up for yourself because you're worth it. And taking away at that goal that you have by showing up every single day really does make a difference. Even though in that moment, I feel like you're going to have this past version of you that's going to say, hey, let's not, or why, or remember when we had a really good time not doing that. And I feel like you just have to remember your vision. You have to remember your why. You have to remember what you're working towards and just keep ticking away at that, even when you don't want to. And I kind of feel like that's where I'm at today, right? Just kind of really honoring myself and getting in tune with what I need to do and how to navigate it. Because I do feel like showing up has felt, it's almost like I have resistance in the form of, well, what do you even have to say? If you have nothing to say, then say nothing at all, right? But it's like, well, no, that's not the point. The point is that I told myself that I was going to show up every single week. And that's the point. That's where my commitment is. If it's not the best episode, so be it. You know, you're not going to have only wins. And I feel like that's another thing. Don't expect for every single day the way that you show up for it to be like yesterday or that time that it was really great or that was really awesome. And then think that if you don't live up to that expectation you set up for yourself, don't think that you were a failure. Don't think that you failed somehow. No, you showed up. You won. You won already by showing up. That's a huge deal. And then that becomes your habit, right? That becomes your momentum. You start to build momentum by showing up for yourself every day. And then that becomes your new norm. That becomes your new reality. That becomes a new version of yourself. Then I'm going to be this person that's getting up at 6 a.m. every day, you know, that I meditate, then I go work out, that I have my routine, that I have my rituals, and I start to look forward to them. And I honor them by going to bed early at night, right? By getting in tune with my body. Like, what do I need? What do I need in order to show up for myself in the best way that I can? And honestly, it just becomes a non-negotiable. Realize that your wellness, your goals are non-negotiable. Be honest with yourself about how much you want them, about how much you want to show up for yourself. Who is a version of you that you're trying to be? I feel like we're all evolving. And every single day, your habits, your routines, the way you move, your decisions, the way you spend your time, the way you allocate your energy, all of that makes a certain version of yourself. And are you happy with the version of yourself that you're making? Are you happy? Is it aligned with the things you're doing right now? Are you going to get there? Right? Are you climbing the right mountain? Because if you're doing the wrong things, you're not going to get there, right? You're going to get somewhere else, which still might be really good, might not, I don't know. But if you want to get to a certain spot, there's a certain path. And I feel like you just have to keep walking down that path. You just have to keep walking down that path, commit to it, and then allow yourself to be in your moods, have emotions. You're a human being. Show up even if you're grumpy, show up even if you're mad, upset, depressed, sad. Show up. Just show up. Have something happen. And then really just pat yourself on the back like, hey, I did it. I did an episode today. Like, hey, I got up at 6, even though I was really sleepy. I got up today. Hey, I still worked out. I moved my body. Check, check, check. You know, just give yourself these small wins because they're not small. They're huge. You showing up for yourself is huge. You could be doing anything with your time, anything with your life, and you're choosing to show up for yourself, for your dream, for your vision. And that's beautiful. That's a really big deal. No one says, hey, you have to show up and you need to be smiling. You need to be in a good mood. You need to be happy. You need to perfect it. You need to, that's the only way that it counts. It's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. Lower the bar. Just showing up is great. That is the goal. And then see what happens. Because regardless of what happens, you're going to learn from it. You're going to learn from whatever it is that you're creating or committing to, right? You're going to learn from that about yourself, about the situation, about everything. But if you don't show up, then you're not really working towards what you want. You don't really build that self-trust, that self-commitment. You're subconsciously telling yourself like, hey, you're not worth it. Those are really cool dreams, but I don't believe in you. That's why I'm not going to show up for you. So even if nobody's showing up for you, nobody's supporting you, no one's telling you like, hey, I really care about this, please show up for yourself. You need to do it for yourself. You need to see that you're worth it. You are worth it. Who else is going to do this for you? Who else is going to do this for you? No, nobody. It's your responsibility as an adult. We have to just choose what we want, get really clear on what it's going to take to get there, And then do that every single day. Even if you feel some type of way, even if you don't want to, even if you're struggling, commit. Make your vision a priority. Make your goals a priority. You're worth it. And really focus on who you're becoming. Really focus on who you're becoming. Start to really think of that version of yourself, right? Start to detach from the version of yourself that you're moving away from and align more with yourself as you are, right? So, for example, okay, I'm a podcaster. What do? I film every single week. Focus on who you're becoming and make it a priority. Align with that version of yourself. I feel like that's kind of the gist of everything right now. I mean, I'm happy I showed up for myself today, especially when I don't even know how serious that was, but I did remember thinking like who's gonna even listen to this? Like, why am I even gonna? What's the point? What if it's not even a good topic? What if it's like, yeah, I just didn't really feel like it. And then it was like, oh, Debbie, but the point is, you said you're gonna make a weekly podcast, right? It goes out every Thursday, so you need to film. That's it. That's really cute that you have these feelings. That's awesome. But right now, we need to focus on what is the topic about. That's it. It's a non negotiable. You're going to record this week. You're going to. And you can allow yourself to feel any type of way that you feel, but commit to your vision, right? Don't let your feelings run the show. Don't get washed away by your feelings, because your feelings, yes, honor them, feel them. But I think that's why it's so important to have this outline of yourself. What are the bones of your ideal life? For myself, for example, it's to be productive during the day. That means I want to make the most of my day. That means getting up at a certain time. I want to have movement every day. I incorporate movement. I'm going to have a podcast every single weekly episode. I'm going to do that, right? These are the bones. These are the bones, right? And so everything in my life has to move alignment with that, in accordance with that. You can't wait around until you feel good to do something. Then things are never going to happen. And I also think it's connected to your subconscious, because then if you're waiting for yourself to feel good to do something, your brain is going to make sure that you don't feel good ever, so that you don't do the thing you want to do. Right? It's a form of self-sabotage. And I think that's why you just have to show up, right? You just have to show up and see what happens. Tomorrow, you also show up. You just continue to show up. And I think that's why it's so important to show up in a way that works for you, right? That's why, like, get really serious about what your dream version of yourself is doing every day, and then do that, right? Also, I do want to make a note. Give yourself grace, right? Give yourself grace. Let's say you can't show up, something, you don't show up. Don't beat yourself up. Don't kick yourself while you're down. Just honor yourself. Say, okay, maybe we missed that workout. Maybe we didn't get up on time. Maybe I didn't do the podcast episode. Then you just kind of observe how that feels, really make space for it, and then continue where you left off. Continue the next week, right? Don't, if you fall off the ladder, don't stay off. Just kind of think like, oh, okay, I fell off. Also take note of how it feels though. Like, does it feel good to not show up for yourself? Probably not. It probably doesn't feel good, right? You probably feel like a failure. I mean, I feel like a failure if I don't show up for myself, but then I give myself grace. Like, hey, you didn't get up at the time you wanted, but tomorrow let's adjust. Like, what can we do for bedtime? Maybe sleep earlier, maybe do this, like adjust, right? Give yourself grace and find out what works for you, especially when you're just starting out, right? Don't set up a strict routine and be like, okay, my ideal version does this and this and this and this. Okay, great. It's awesome that you have that. And then now it's about working towards it. Don't assume you're going to be able to just do that right off the bat with ease, with just zero discomfort. I mean, maybe, and that's awesome, but I feel like, at least for myself, I have goals and then I adjust, right? I adjust, but have your non-negotiables. Have at least maybe one non-negotiable. Like, what's one way you can show up for yourself that you've been meaning to show up for yourself in that specific way? What's one thing you can do for yourself to show up for yourself as you work towards your ideal life, towards your ideal self, right? Just one, just one. And then start from there. And then you can start to build from there. But I feel like once you commit to just showing up for yourself, at least to that one thing, whether it be anything, it could be anything, really. It's up to you. It's completely build your own destiny, build your own life type of place over here. But I feel like once you start to commit to that one thing that you said you're going to do every day or every week or every month, you start to build this self-trust and this self-discipline, and you also start to receive the benefits of showing up for yourself. You start to feel good, like, oh, I can do that. I can be that version of myself that actually does the things that I say I'm going to do, because you start to show yourself, oh, I have follow through. I have follow through. So what else can I follow through on? Right? What else can I add to this? What other habit or thing have I wanted to adjust in my life or add? What other thing do I want to add to my life? And you start to just add more things to your life in a way that feels comfortable for you, right? No one's going to force you to do things you don't want to do. I mean, you choose your own destiny, you choose your own habits, show up for yourself and then see what happens, observe your feelings and see how it goes, But give yourself grace too. Don't expect perfection right off the bat. I feel like just try your best, adjust, try your best, adjust, observe, adjust, but show up. You're not going to get all this data if you don't show up. You can't adjust if you don't show up. You can't know what you like, what you don't like, what doesn't work for you, what does, what you're adding on, what you're removing, unless you show up. You just have to show up. Show up is the phrase of the podcast episode. So, yes, I'm going to go ahead and just leave you with these questions. What's one way you can show up for yourself? And I'm going to zoom in. What's one way you can show up for yourself this week? What's one way you can show up for yourself this week? And where in your life do you want to show up more? Where in your life do you want to show up more? I feel like just really remember that what you're doing is sacred, right? You're honoring yourself. You're getting to know yourself. You're also acting out your desires. You're walking towards your dreams and you're worth it. So do start to see your life as just this ritual, this ritual of you showing up for yourself and seeing what happens. I'm going to go ahead and leave you with that. I hope that you enjoyed the episode, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Please feel free to comment, to subscribe, to follow, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.